me feeling like I'm academics.
Steak. I'll kind of, really quickly try to break this down. There's not much for me to talk about with it. People have incorrectly said that I'm involved in this lawsuit. I'm not. I obviously love steak. It's a great place. But the news came down that Drake, Adin Ross are being sued, and they're being sued in what's hoping to be a class action lawsuit. Again, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but I'm going to give you my thoughts about it. I'll tell you what the allegations are. They're saying that Drake has used gambling on stake to bot his music through illegal and illicit means, and that him and Adin Ross transfer money in non-regulated ways. And essentially, I'll just read this. The federal class action lawsuit, as reviewed by Complex, was filed in Virginia. It claims the website is operating one of the largest and most profitable legal casinos, at least since 2022. These are the plaintiffs. There's two women. One of them that I seen filed for bankruptcy not too long ago. And Tiffany Hines, they allege that stake misleads consumers while allowing real money wagering disguised as virtual currency play. Now, the odd part about this is that both plaintiffs don't seem to be, I read the whole lawsuit. They don't even allege in the lawsuit that they have played on stake and they have lost money. I didn't see that at all. There's no anecdotes about, this is how I was taken advantage of. So let me tell you the bigger picture. And I'll finish reading this and I'll tell you what I think the bigger picture is. It says Drake and Adin Ross are characterized in the lawsuit as zealous and paid promoters of a platform with incentives to mask the true nature and extent of their conduct. Complaint also state that Stake's internal tipping system was used by Drake and Adin Ross to move large sums of money, including a $100,000 tip between them to fund a artificial streaming button to create fraudulent streams for Drake's music. All right. This is where it gets a little bit loopy, right? If they were just saying, we want to know, are you gambling with your real money on stake, right? Okay, fine. Maybe that's a question you could ask, and I don't know. I don't know if courts answer that question or not. Which, from everything I know, and this is just my personal knowledge, Drake has a contract with Stake. They give him a certain amount of money. He then uses that money and he gambles a portion of it. If he wins, he keeps it. If he loses that portion of money, right? That's my understanding of it. Same with Adin Ross. Now, this last paragraph is where I think I look into the bigger picture of what this is. This isn't like some person who said, I start gambling because of Drake and Adin Ross and I lost all my fortune. And they made it seem to me like, they were using their money and they're not using their money. That's not even this. What this ends up being is this RICO or racketeering allegation. And by the way, people keep saying Drake gets hit with a RICO. I hear y'all. This is a civil RICO. And by the way, it's a civil, anybody can file a civil RICO. This last paragraph is confusing. So at first they're saying, we're skeptical about stake. All right, whatever. Then the last part is saying that they believe that Drake is using stake as like some back channel, dark web type of place to bot his own music through payments through other things for fake streams. That's where I feel we're headed towards cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs land. It's kind of ridiculous. By the way, if anyone is served in this lawsuit, I believe it will get thrown out immediately. There's not much claims here. Now, here's the bigger picture for me. I've looked at both of the plaintiffs, LaShawn Ridley and Tiffany Hines. I can't even see how they're that connected to this particular, to even gambling or to even the music business at all. What this seems to me, because the second lawyer on this is a really high-powered lawyer, it seems like somebody's funding, and I want you guys to listen to me, somebody's funding this in hopes of trying to disrupt, harass, or possibly later try to get information about Drake. It's kind of the same thing. Remember when I said I did the Rock Nation deposition, and then they were really keen on asking me, so has Drake ever sent you money for music? And I'm like, Drake has never sent me money at all. But they kept asking certain things that was deviating away from the main topic that why we were there, which was Meg Thee Stallion and Milagro Cooper. Didn't I tell you that there were people that showed up in Australia, trying to look for certain individuals, that they were asking some of these questions? Again, it's not about that particular inquiry or probe. I'm trying to speak to where this is coming from. All signs to me say that, between Universal Music Group, who I believe are incentivized to launch a counterattack, even though, recently they did get a win in court with the lawsuit getting dismissed, launch a counter, initiative against Drake. But that kind of falls flat on his face because Universal wouldn't accuse Drake of botting his streams. You know why? Universal also benefits from Drake's streams. And if you accuse Drake of botting his streams, you basically accuse Spotify for paying out money they should have not. Spotify is a public company. That's a problem. So that takes Universal out of there, right? So at first I'm like, well, maybe it's Universal trying to clap back at Drake because Drake's suing them. But I got to take them out of there because why? Universal wouldn't accuse their own artists of botting. They're going to deny botting all over. Why? They have benefited from it. It's like if I'm the beneficiary of a scam, the worst thing I could do is to admit the scam. If anything, I'm going to just act like I don't know about the scam. I wouldn't admit or accuse someone of the scam if I benefit. So let's take Universal out of here. Who else has any type of interest in Drake's music, or maybe money that Drake's getting? Obviously, Rock Nation becomes one of those interesting figures. Now, some people might be like, oh, everything is Rock Nation. Well, we're going off actual and tangible proof. Rock Nation deposed me for a non-related case and asked me about Drake and asked me about Drake and Steak. Now we see this. Moreover, what I think is happening here, and for the people who are really excited, I think this case goes nowhere. But the main point of this is that there's a few people or players that I think are either collaborating or it's one of them. So I think this comes from Rock Nation, or this comes from a few, it's like ambulance chasers, so to speak. Like there's these companies that will wait for something to happen and they file strategic lawsuits. So in the gambling world, there are people who wait for casinos or social casinos to get to a certain size, and then they file these lawsuits hoping for, try to mount a bunch of evidence hoping for a payout. So I'm not saying this is some big conspiracy. I do think Rock Nation could have been involved because they're a likely suspect at this point. But what I really think this is that this is a frequent pay me money shakedown. you basically start a class action a class action lawsuit against these type of businesses, and usually they pay out quickly to avoid it getting too big. So that's what that is. The allegation that Drake is using these proceeds to bot his music, and they keep talking about narrative. It doesn't feel like it's just only a casino only venture. And if you ask me, the leading suspect here is clearly Roc Nation. Okay, so I do see people really interested in this. It's the allegations, and by the way, most of the allegations is flat out false, right? They accuse, there is this artificial intelligence person that operates within the realm that's connected to me, that they accuse of running a company. He don't even run the company. They accuse Drake of playing on particular sites. He don't play on those sites. Like, their information lacks accuracy, and it's more about them trying to get more info. And I think that's what this is. I think when they asked me questions for 9 hours, they used 2 minutes of conversation from me in court, but they questioned me for 9 hours for the Meg Thee Stallion stuff. The true purpose wasn't to get, wasn't to ask me questions to get whatever outcome they wanted in court. The true outcome for them was to, let's get Ak on the record answering these questions, that we could use these questions for our other initiatives. So that's what I think this is. Drake, people want to know about his gambling deal, what he does, and I think this is a way they're going to try to force it. I think this goes nowhere, and I wouldn't be surprised if this gets thrown out within 3 months. So they got to serve people in this, and I think it's going to get thrown out, honestly. Okay? I know you guys are waiting for some more elaborate breakdown of this, like there's a conspiracy theory. There's not. The lawsuit, and I read it, most of the details are off, and it's making a leap in judgment to say Drake is using Stake to fuel his music career. Drake has been the most successful male artist since day one till now. Why would he need Stake to fuel that? And even if he did, we can't even see, at least visibly, from my perspective, we don't even see a Stake logo in any music-related things with him. Yeah, he has it on his social media, but we don't see it in his music. So, what do you want to make of this? Again, I think this will get thrown out. Give it 3 to 4 months. But obviously, you guys are thirsty for some more information about it. I did want to say I'm not officially mentioning this because none of this shit here got nothing to do with me. Also, this idea that Drake got 100,000 from Drake and Adin Ross. Maybe I don't know the legality of that, but that got nothing to do with like some conspiracy about Stake. The dude gave him $100,000 that you never been in a casino and they could be like, yo, you got 1,000? Yo, let me hold it. I'm gonna pay you back. That's what that was. Okay? So this lawsuit doesn't make sense, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes. All right? Yeah, they're going to keep creating stuff, and what I realize is that the headline makes it more important than the details. I could pull this lawsuit up and go through it line by line, but you know what you're going to realize? There's nothing there. But the headlines all suggest this is actually credible, right? All right, chat. It's 6:41, man. I'm finna call it. I apologize for popping on late tonight, but you guys got some geopolitical education, and we got to at least somewhere in trying to figure out what's going on globally. We now know what's going on in Venezuela. But we'll continue from here, and I'll move back on with the obvious topics of, we had a couple other topics, but they're more hip hop topics. We'll get to them hopefully in a few hours for a daytime stream that I promised you guys from before. All right. Thank you guys. This is day 2 of, was it 15? We'll see if we get there. All right. Chat, I love y'all. I will see y'all later. And please get some sleep. Make sure you make it to work. And wait, today's Saturday, right? Oh, shit. Today's Saturday. It's probably the weekend for most of you guys. You guys are off. Unless you work on weekends. All right, chat. Catch y'all later. Peace.